So it seems we have the TNT title finals all set up. We have Lance Archer going up against Cody Rhodes. I don't think it was a huge surprise to anybody that it was going to go this way, but you never know. It could have gone either way with Darby Allin and Cody, though I think everybody was pretty on board that Lance Archer would be taking it home tonight or last night, and not Dustin Rhodes, because he was not going to continue on. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. You are listening to That's Wrestling. My name is Eric LaRoche, and today I do have a fill-in co-host. I have Dave Colarusso. Dave, why don't you introduce yourself and tell people where you can find you?
Hey, everybody. Like he said, I'm Dave Colarusso. You can find me at Russo's Podcast About Anything. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, etc. Or you can just jump on my Instagram, MightyMouse0913. I don't tweet. So
I don't tweet a ton, but you can find That's Wrestling at That's Wrestling 1. So what did you think about how the final came together? Were you expecting Lance Archer and Cody to be the finals going into this?
Pretty much, yes. I mean, I thought that this is going to lead to something greater down the line. It's not going to definitely end with just Lance Archer and Cody Rhodes. This is going to be a lot of follow-on, in my opinion.
Right. I think one of the things that people were kind of speculating about was Cody Rhodes going to go 3-0 against Darby Allin, or I guess technically 2-0-1 against Darby Allin?
I'd say, in my opinion, I think yes, but only because I think it's going to lead to something further down the line. I don't know if you want me to talk about that now, because I do have a little theory on it, or if you want me to bring it up later.
Sure, go for it now. Let's talk about that.
Personally, I think this is setting up Cody Rhodes for a heel turn. My opinion.
Interesting.
He's been stealing Darby Allin's moves now. He did it with the coffin drop again last night, and he's been working much more submission stuff as compared to normal hits that are finishers that'll end a match. So I think this is just slowly creeping its way, setting up some kind of heel turn, especially when he threw Darby Allin into his own wife. Not intentionally, but still something to think about.
Well, that was kind of one of the things that the past 2 weeks I was curious about with Darby Allin is he was doing some heel tactics. He chop blocked Cody's knee on this episode, and against Sammy Guevara, he pulled off his boot and was kind of really going after the previously injured ankle of Sammy Guevara. So it seems like even Darby Allin seems to be heading down a slightly dark path with some of the tendencies that he's been doing.
I'd be fine with that. That's fine. And I almost, for a second there, it was a few weeks ago, I think it was Chucky T did the same thing to Scorpio Sky when he came down with only one shoe on. He started biting his toe. And my first thought was, oh, that's a heel turn, but they're still good guys. They're still fake.
True. That was 5 months ago at this point.
Oh, it was, man.
All right, so let's get into this match real quick. So really, this match, I thought it was actually a really good match. It was on par with their other matches. I thought really they started off with some chain wrestling, and then, as mentioned, Cody did like a bridge up, and he starts selling his knee, and that's when Darby immediately chop blocks that knee. He starts working over the leg. They fight on the outside, and Darby flips out of a suplex attempt. This is out on the floor, and then he charges Cody, and Cody moves out of the way, and Darby ends up crashing into Brandy, which then smashes her into the barricade as well. And then, so we'll get back to that in a minute, but after the commercial break here, we have Cody is squarely in control of the fight at this point. They are both kind of fighting. Well, Cody is fighting on the bit of a mad side here because, Brandy was taken out, so he's kind of emotional at this point. And then Darby gets on a knee bar, and this kind of turns it around in his favor. He puts on a figure 4 that ends up getting broken up by the ropes. And then Brandy ends up making her way back out to the ring. Now, I do not understand why this even happened. She comes out with a bottle of water. He takes a sip of water. Cody takes a drink. Darby steals the bottle of water and smashes him with it. Cody actually hit a Rainmaker. I don't know if anybody noticed that. It was actually a ripcord clothesline. They both go down. Darby ends up hitting a flip over stunner that he likes to do. He goes for a springboard flip. Cody turns that into a crossroads, but Darby kicks out at 2 here. And then Cody actually goes for a coffin drop of his own off the top rope, but Darby gets his knees up. Darby then goes up to the top rope to give a coffin drop to Cody, but Cody rolls it into a pin after the landing, and Cody picks up the pin here. Now, I think, after listening to a few other podcasts, did I miss a spot where Britt Baker hit Cody with her shoe?
I think it happened off camera.
Okay.
The commenters kept saying it, and I was, I'm paying attention. I was like, did I miss something here?
Right, I had the same thing, and with hearing a few other people mention, I'm like, did I miss something here? But anyways, what did you think about this finish? Personally, I thought the finish would have been okay if Cody had hooked Darby's arm and made it a crucifix pin, because it looked like Darby could have easily just slipped out of how the pin actually went down.
Exactly. Like the way he came down, if they would have made it look like less of a coffin drop and more like Cody got one over on him by sneaking that in there, that would make a lot more sense. This looks like it took a little something off the edge of the coffin drop, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what it looked like for me too, and we discussed the finish of this, or I guess the outcome of this match. So, you have anything else to add on this one?
Yeah, I think they need to save the coffin drop, because if the next person he beats clean with it, it's just going to make Cody look too good.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I think a couple of times Cody has done this. This type of finish. I forget who else he did it against, but somebody did. It might have been Sammy Guevara did a move off the top rope, and then Cody immediately pinned him after. I believe, well, on the first episode of Dynamite, he did that to Sammy, but Sammy missed a shooting star press, I believe, and then he immediately went in. But I believe this is not the first time he has reversed somebody's pin after a finisher into the 3 count.
Well, that would make more sense then, because he is a very technical wrestler, and in actuality, he did grow up doing a lot of wrestling. So that kind of solidifies it then, in my opinion.
Right, and then going what we were discussing earlier about where this could be heading, there's another option on the table. Is it could be going in an Okada-Sonata type of story where Sonata has lost to Okada many, many times in a row at this point, and they're just kind of telling that story that just Okada has Sonata's number every time, and it could come down to Cody could end up beating Darby Allin, 6 more times, and then eventually at some point down the road, that is when Darby finally cracks the code of Cody.
Oh, that would be fantastic. It's a classic David and Goliath.
Exactly. Did you notice that the announcer actually at the end of the match announced Cody as Cody Rhodes?
I didn't, but when they entered him in, I was hoping they were going to say Cody Rhodes, because I know he just won that, or the WWE just had their stuff expire.
Right, and he applied for it. So I guess they probably haven't given it to him, but he's probably going, well, nobody technically owns it at this point because it expired, so I can use it. So
yeah, I mean, they can't, quote, get in trouble for it now. So
right. Next up, we had a part 2 of the Scorpio Sky video, and he says that Frankie and Daniels were already a unit, and they were looking for a third guy, but he didn't want to just be the third guy. He said, but he did hit it big until the worst town ever gimmick caught on BTE, and then says, not many people get to wrestle on TV, or for that matter, even for a major title. He says he felt right at home when he was doing that, and says he doesn't want to be good, he doesn't want to be great, he wants to be an effing legend.
I dug this. I was already a little high on Scorpio Sky, and this just made me feel compassion towards the character himself, because like he talks about how these guys brought him into the world. But then, like, you already know the guy can go, because he went for like 20 minutes against Chris Jericho as the champion. So I'm all about it. I think that down the line, Scorpio Sky could either break away from SCU and do his own thing, or be supported by SCU and become a singles champion.
Yeah, and I think that would be a decent way to go, just having this little mini faction where Scorpio is going for, the heavyweight title type of deal, and then you have Daniels and Frankie Kazarian maybe getting higher up in the tag picture at some point, and maybe they could have a little faction of gold at some point.
No, that'd be great to see. And SCU is just they're fun to watch. They're so established.
Right, and oh man, that first match when he didn't have his shoe was just excellent. I thought that was great.
I was nervous for him. I thought I was like, oh god, this guy's gonna get hurt doing this.
Right. And then we had an MJF promo, and this was it looked like somewhere in his living room in front of a mantle of some kind, and he's saying that his hangnail has been healed to the doctor's surprise. He was on the brink of death, but it healed even better than anybody else. It actually overhealed, and now he has the strongest nail on the planet. But now that he's getting TV ready, the unthinkable happened. He undoes his scarf, and he has a neck brace on. He says that he nicked himself shaving, and it was gruesome, and that a normal man would have bled out and died. But not him, because he's a warrior, and it hurt so much that he was looking forward to, or he is hoping to get on a German-infested plane to wrestle in front of 6 or 7 of his peers, and then says he really wanted to entertain us and in our hour of need, and then says that he is the voice brave enough to cry out, "The storm thundering across the horizon. I am the candle that is lit in a dark room. I am the only hope left for this company. I am MJF, and I am better than you, and you know it."
I expected nothing less from Maxwell Jacob Friedman, and I still want to see more. Like, just give him a mic every week. Just let him just say whatever he wants, because he's going to get himself over. He's already over.
Yeah.
And, good.
He is by far, like, my favorite heel right now, because he is always in character. There was that whole big hubbub at, I believe it was Revolution, where they had the meet and greets, and somebody, he was giving the little kid the finger, and that like went viral about, look at this guy, he's giving a little kid the finger.
Absolutely
funny.
People with physical disabilities, all that stuff, but everyone wants him to do it. It's just people outside of the wrestling community don't understand, like, he's just playing a character. And it was prior to Dynamite starting. This is before I really knew a whole lot about AEW and the Elite and stuff like that. He got himself kicked out of a venue just for being MJF.
Yeah. that's a pretty, I mean, that's dedication to your character right there.
Oh no, like physically dragged him out. Like the security had him by the arms and were pulling him out of the venue.
That was great. Next up, we had Musa versus Wardlow. This was pretty much just a squash. Wardlow gave him an immediate chokeslam right away, beat up on him. Musa gets a little offense in, but that doesn't really go very far. And then Wardlow puts him up onto the top rope, and he does this pull down off the top rope. He did it last week too. He does this pull down into like a rising knee. So it's basically like a top turnbuckle assisted GTS. And then he hits the F10 and picks up the win.
That knee looked rough.
Yeah, that knee, I don't know why he just doesn't make that his finisher, because that is hard right there.
And I think personally, I thought it looked fantastic. I looked away from the TV, and I don't know if you go on Squared Circle and anything like that on Reddit. A lot of people are like, oh, he's unsafe. I'm like, if he was unsafe, Moosa's face would be destroyed.
Right, and that's the thing. He hits the guy with the meat of his thigh and not the cap of his knee, and you're good to go. That's
yeah, it's like the front of your face is pretty, like, if you got really hit in the front of your face like that, you're going to be bleeding all over that ring. The fact that he was just holding his face, like, oh, that's perfect. That's a great hit.
Yeah, that looks like a great move. Wish he made that his finisher. I'm not a big fan of the F10. It's kind of dumb. It's just an airplane toss spin, basically.
Yeah, he literally just spins in a circle.
Yeah. Next up, we have another bubbly bunch. This is 3 weeks running at this point. Jericho is working out, and he is in his, like, rock star stage gear. He has a sparkly jacket on, his leather pants, and he is on a stationary bike working out. This is just outrageously funny. They argue about who won the flim flam last week, and he says that they need to stay sharp and strong, and says, let's have a Manitoba melee. So this is the gimmick where, if you've been on Reddit or Twitter or Facebook in the past few weeks, people have been doing these funny quarantine videos where they kind of do something that passes it off to the next person. So in this case, They it looks like they hit their phone, and then the next person pretends to get hit backwards, and then they come in and hit their phone, and it goes on like that. And we start up. So we have Ortiz to Sammy to Jake Hager to Santana, who uses his flip flop no less, which then goes to the librarian Peter Avalon, then to Jungle Boy, who does a little swing out on a vine over a little brook and then comes back. Sonny Kiss to Luther to Ted Irvin, Jericho's dad, who cross checks the camera with a hockey stick, to Lou Ferrigno with a taser, who then tases through the phone Corey Taylor of Slipknot. And then the next guy, I do not know who it was. I don't know if you did.
Who was it? You have to describe him.
I know he was a musician. Duffy.
That's Duff McKagan.
Duff McKagan. That was it. Now I know, and now I suddenly know who it is. And then it goes to Jay and Silent Bob, Gabriel Iglesias, Brad Williams, who is a comedian, to some other guy I did not know. He kind of had a messed up hand. He was a little person with a messed up hand. Do you know who that was?
That's not ringing a bell.
I'm guessing he was also a comedian, because it went Gabriel Iglesias to Brad Williams, who was also a comedian, to another, I'm guessing who was another comedian, because I did not recognize him. And then to Virgil, and then again to some big guy I did not know. And then lastly to Vicky Guerrero, who starts laughing and then starts yelling, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" And then Jericho is covering his ears. He says, "Stop! Stop! Because that was awesome. That was the best Manitoba Melee I've ever been a part of. Long live the Inner Circle." Then Jericho ends the call and then says, "Was that Lou Ferrigno with a taser?"
This was one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in wrestling in so long, and I'm just staring at my TV, my eyes glazed over in happiness. It's like, this is just amazing.
I think all of Jericho's promos since this whole thing started of quarantine and having to rely way more on video promos has been the best. Because, okay, the first thing, him in the hot tub a few weeks ago talking to Vanguard 1, I thought was one of the greatest promos I have ever seen ever. And then the Bubbly Bunch episodes just get wackier and wackier every single week.
I'm all about it. We're in the middle of this ridiculous quarantine. Ham it up. Have fun with it. Right. All you're doing is you're putting your group over and everyone's enjoying themselves watching it.
Yeah, and I don't think in the end, I don't think this is going to hurt anybody. Sammy already plays kind of a bit of a doofus anyways. And Santana and Ortiz, it'll take them 1 week to reestablish, the kind of their badass street cred type of gimmick anyways. And Jake Hager, I think actually he has been one of the funniest guys without trying since AEW started, because he's the guy who just stared at the camera all the time. He always had like the funniest little bit, because they'd ask him a question, he'd say nothing, he would just stare at the camera. They had the video package, I don't know if you remember, prior to the match with Cody, they were interviewing all these people. They had him with a sit-down interview. He just stared at the camera sitting in the chair and said nothing. And then he has to say the word sorry on Jericho's behalf during Jericho's apology one time. So
that sorry one was fantastic. I think the one that beat it, in my opinion, because it's so ridiculous, is when he comes out for Chris Jericho's birthday with the goat.
The Jericho.
It's Jericho.
Jericho. That's actually one of my most popular episodes, because I put Jericho in the title.
Oh, okay.
All right. Next up, we have Best Friends with Orange Cassidy versus Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc with Penelope Ford at ringside. And this was a no holds barred, no DQ match. And really, this was almost trash wrestling, but not quite as far as like a CZW type of trash wrestling. But it was a lot of chairs, a lot of weapons. We had a ladder in there at one point. So really it starts off with a quick brawl. Trent hits a dive. Havoc immediately goes to grab some chairs from under the ring. hits Trent, or actually pretends like he's about to hit Trent with it, but then throws it at Orange Cassidy. Chucky T gets suplexed onto a pile of chairs on the outside, and then Kip Sabian hits this huge dive. And then we have Trent getting slingshotted into the ladder. More hits with the ladder. They set Trent up on the top rope at one point, and the ladder is wedged between the middle ropes. So it's kind of going across 45-degree angle to the turnbuckle, and he gets his legs taken out from under him, and he lands back first onto that. They set up 2 chairs on their sides, so they have them open, and then they drop them down on their sides, and they lay Trent across it, and Kip Sabian hits the double stomp off the top rope onto him. That sucked. And then they had a chair that was set up, and it was actually the seat and the back of the chair down on the mat. So the legs are sticking up, and Havoc gets body slammed onto that open chair. Then Kip Sabian gets a pile driver on a chair. Penelope pulls Chucky T out of the ring to break up the pin. Chucky T gets backdropped onto the ladder, and then Orange Cassidy throws a chair at Jimmy Havoc. Penelope attempts to kick OC, but ends up kicking Kip Sabian instead, and then she tries to spear Orange Cassidy, or sorry,
she went to kick him in the head or something.
Yeah, she went to kick Orange Cassidy, but then ended up hitting Kip, and then she tried to spear Orange Cassidy. I think Kip Sabian actually tried to spear Orange Cassidy and went into Penelope, so they kind of took each other out. Orange Cassidy does a lazy fall, his lazy fall splash off to the outside onto Kip and Penelope, so they're out. Chucky T hits the awful waffle pile driver onto the chairs to Jimmy Havoc, and Best Friends get the win here. This
was insane.
It was insane, and I thought it was a very fun match to watch. And there weren't any like super telegraphed spots, which is one thing that tends to happen in this type of match. So I most of the time I had no idea what was going to happen, so that is a plus on that category. But this storyline is very strange that we have Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian kind of teaming up, and they have been for the past couple weeks at this point, and they've been having this mini feud with Best Friends, and I am really not sure what they're trying to do with this.
Yeah, me either. I like everyone involved, but like the symmetry and the meshing of the storylines, I'm enjoying what I'm watching, but I do not get it.
Right. I think we need to hear from Kip, Jimmy, and Penelope to figure out why they are a group and how they came to be a group, because there was no ties of any of these people or of Havoc along with Kip and Penelope. Obviously those two they're dating and are engaged in real life. But how did Jimmy Havoc fit into this group? That was never explained. They've never had any dealings beyond the past couple weeks. So I am a little confused, and I don't know why Jimmy Havoc is inserting himself into the Best Friends, having a beef with the Best Friends. I don't remember anything particularly happening with any of the Best Friends to Jimmy Havoc.
I think the best I can come up with is British camaraderie. That's about the most I can think of.
That, or we're missing something that happened on Dark, and every week I am always touting that they never advertise AEW Dark on Dynamite, which makes zero sense.
I forget about it every week, every time.
Yeah, and they know what's going to be on Dark, so I don't know why at the end of the show, when they're saying, hey, on next week's Dynamite, this, and this. Oh, and on Tuesday, this match, and this match is happening on Dark. It takes like 30 seconds.
Even if they wanted to on Dynamite, they'd be like, here's you missed on Dark last night. 2 minutes, boom.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, I did... I counted up, and of like the first 12 weeks of Dynamite, they mentioned AEW Dark 4 times and advertised it 3 times. That was it. It's like, really? Wow. Because I was there at the second show in Boston, and that night was on AEW Dark was a lights out match Kenny Omega versus Joey Janela, and it was awesome. But it's like,
yes,
okay,
yeah.
why would you not advertise, hey, on Tuesday, check out this awesome match?
Yeah, and I even remember for when they were briefly mentioning AEW Dark, they mentioned like people like Jimmy Havoc, who you haven't seen on Dynamite. You can see him on Dark, and it's just like, I don't want to say they dropped the ball on it, but it's like no one's watching this, and I would if I remembered.
Right,
But,
exactly. And like it comes up, but it's like, oh man, Dynamite's going to be on in like an hour, and I don't really want to watch Dark right now if I'm going to watch 2 more hours of wrestling. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things. They just need to. I think they need to press it harder and give what matches are going to happen. Not just say, hey, check out Dark on Tuesday. Say what matches are going to happen. Advertise it ahead of time. Get it out on social media, because they love to use social media all the time, and say, hey, here are the matches on Tuesday. And, put that up on Sunday or whatever, so you can at least get in the mindset.
Absolutely. Even if you've seen the AEW TNT Instagram page, it's fantastic. Whoever's running that thing it really has comedic timing down, but I'm watching that because I know it's going to be funny. Throw in a Dark plug. Oh, that'll definitely remind me.
Right, and maybe once their second show, whenever that actually ends up starting on TNT, or it could be on TBS or True. They haven't nailed down on what network it's actually going to be on, but then I think since TNT it might has a stake in it, they're going to want to advertise it on Dynamite. So at least maybe the second show will get a little bit more love than Dark does now. And I don't know why they don't do Dark, because it's free to everybody across the world. So there's really no reason not to promote it.
I agree, and I think TNT is probably gonna want to pick up that second show, because if they don't, that TNT championship is tethered to one show.
Right. Yeah. Well, that too. And even I was mentioning it. Well, TNT, the show is called Dynamite. TNT is another word for dynamite. So at least if they ever leave Turner, they can still have the TNT title. They just need to change the logo.
The Dynamite Championship.
Yep. Next up, we have what I think has been my favorite segment so far from Britt Baker. She is in her office and she's getting her makeup done because the camera crew showed up early. She keeps calling her makeup artist Reba, but this is actually Rebel from previously of Impact Wrestling. She's talking to the camera. She has this little sit down, and then you can see Britt off in the background looking over and seeing what's going on, and she doesn't like how Rebel is talking, so she pulls her aside. But of course Rebel still has a wireless mic on, so we can hear everything that she's told. And Britt is like, you always have to say Dr. Britt Baker. She says she needs to do better, do it like I told you, do it how we practice. So we're back with a sit down with Rebel, and she's giving a super kiss ass promo to Britt Baker, praising her, saying that she's an inspiring role model, and it's been a privilege to do her makeup. And this is all over the top, really tongue in cheek. She gives off to the audience that she doesn't believe in what she's actually saying, and purposefully. And then we have back into a exam room where Britt has the flip over notebook like she did the last time, and she has more tips on being a role model. She flips over the first page, and it just has a sheet with her Twitter handle on it. She's like, how did that get in there? And then flips it. And then it has a list of not okay list, and it says wearing glasses. So she says it is not okay to wear glasses unless you're a doctor. She's wearing glasses at the time. She says glasses are for smart people. She says, fat people, hey, you need to suck it in for photos. Filters and Photoshop are your friend. Use them. And then lastly is having a snaggle tooth. If your smile isn't aesthetically pleasing, it's not just uncomfortable for you. More importantly, it's uncomfortable for us having to look at it. So don't smile. I really did not like Britt Baker at the beginning of Dynamite. Or beginning of AEW. Now I love what she does. Now she just needs to get the in-ring down a little bit more, but her character is 10 times better than it was.
This character is perfect because she's just found the perfect niche as a doctor and worked it into being an absolute condescending heel.
I think it's great. And I love that Adam Cole keeps showing up on AEW programming, which is really funny in various pictures. So that is always hilarious because I'm trying to think how many WWE contracted talent has actually been on AEW. I know he has. Renee Young has been in a picture. Cedric Alexander has been in a picture because he's married to Big Swole. So I know at least those three have made it onto AEW television, even though they're contracted to WWE in a photograph or something like that. So always very funny.
I think it's great. I love a good Easter egg like that.
Well, I mean, Britt was shown on NXT, so
yeah, and War Games specifically, she got her own single frame.
Yes, that was hilarious. That turned into a meme as well. But I love what she's doing here with her character. I really wish she'd just tighten up the in-ring a bit. The last match when she got her nose busted open, I think chronologically, technically, that was the last match, even though she had a squash match in between. I think she did a lot better, and I actually commented that, hey, the super kick actually looked a lot better. So hopefully she is working on that to tighten that up, and we will not see those errant kicks that miss by 10 miles.
Yeah, that would be preferable.
Next up, we have Baron Black, which they said, I think we've seen him on Dark, but I have not seen him on Dark. He is 0-1, I believe. I believe he tagged with somebody. And anyways, he's here against Shawn Spears. Really, this is a Shawn Spears squash that goes down similar to like he has the past couple squash matches that he's had. He starts off kind of cocky, which then gets him caught a few times. But in the end, he ends up winning. He hits the C4, but actually he doesn't go for the pin here. He put on a sharpshooter and looked like a madman and held it well after the tap out. So I'm curious what is going on with him.
That's it. He looked like he just lost all emotion and just wanted to hurt the guy in the sharpshooter.
Yeah, so I'm curious if this will finally start to play into a bit more of a heavier Shawn Spears storyline, because he's been looking for a tag partner, but obviously with this whole thing going down, he has not had very much luck. He was not impressed by Michael Nakazawa during that match, so I don't know who he's going to try to recruit, if they're actually going to finally put him into a tag team, or maybe they even have somebody waiting for him in the wings that we don't know about, or who has not even debuted at this point.
I would not be surprised if they already have somebody. Now they're just waiting. Give him squash matches every week. Build him up as a strong singles guy. And then once Tully can come back, then they introduce that new tag team guy.
Yeah, and that is what I'm thinking, and I don't have a clue who it could possibly be.
No idea.
Next up, we had Marko Stunt versus Brodie Lee. So,
oh God,
this went down as about as you thought. But beforehand, we did have. Oh, actually, we'll go back after this. So yes, it was basically a squash. Marko Stunt got thrown around a bunch. He got like 2 shots in, and then was just crushed by Brodie Lee. There was not much to speak of the actual match.
No, he's a living ragdoll.
That is what I love. I love his style of bumping.
Yeah, oh my God, it just looks so terrible. Even after he got pinned and Brodie Lee just threw him off to the side. Like even that just looked awful.
The ragdoll style, him and Ricochet. Ricochet is my favorite ragdoll style of bumping, but Marko comes in a close second.
The guy's like 120 pounds versus Brodie Lee, who's got to be close to 300.
Yeah, and so actually before this match, Taz does another analyzing Lance Archer's blackout. So I love these analysis videos that Taz has been doing. He did Kenny Omega's V-Trigger and the Snapdragon, and then he did Jake Hager's arm triangle choke, and here he's kind of analyzing Lance Archer's blackout. And what we didn't mention is before the Marko Stunt versus Brodie Lee match, Marko Stunt did have a little bit of a promo. The interviewer asks him how much more he can take without his fellow Jungle Express or Jurassic Express teammates with him. He says that he's got a job to do. regardless if they're here, that whether it be Brodie Lee or Lance Archer, he'll go out there, he'll give it his all, and then he says, "You ask how much I can take? A lot more than that." So he's got heart, but not a ton of brain.
I liked it personally. I think a lot of people give Marko Stunt a lot of crap, but I think he sells himself over as a compassionate character.
Yeah, I have ever since AEW started. I have loved Marko Stunt and how they've used him. They obviously he's not going to take down Lance Archer on his own, but I love that they give him the quick things. He uses his speed. He hits like a crazy swinging tornado DDT and then gets out. And does this, then gets out. Does that, and gets out. And
it works. Stick and move.
Yep. Then next up we have a Jon Moxley video. He says it's been an amazing. It's amazing that it's been just 8 weeks since he was celebrating with the AEW fans. He won the title. Seems like a lifetime. I have to agree with that, man. It's been 8 weeks. That's it. It feels like it was months ago when he got that title.
I feel the exact same way. He said it, and then I was like, wait. Did he just say 8 weeks and start going through my head? And I'm like, get out of here. No way. It feels like it was like last year.
Yeah, no kidding. He says, what the hell happened? Instead of being at a live event, you're watching safely at home, which they all appreciate. He says, tough times don't last forever. One day we'll be back, and he'll be bleeding and swearing with a sea of fans once again. And he says, but now it's time to reflect on things he's thankful for. He says he's thankful for old number 7, which is Jack Daniels, for those who don't know. He's thankful for his wife who puts up with him. It's difficult to be stuck in a house with him weeks on end. He's thankful for steel chairs because as a rule of thumb, a DDT on a chair is always better than one not on a chair. And he says, I guess they didn't teach that at the wrestling room at Oklahoma University. And he is thankful mostly because AEW is going to be live next week. He's going to load up his dogs, load up the truck with some Metallica CDs and a few bottles, and head east so he can be there live next week. He says, before anybody gets their arms broken, their face broken, a thumbtack to the eye, just remember, if you step up to the champion, you do so at your own risk. This may be a time for togetherness, so support your local business and order takeout. And most importantly, is everybody paying attention? Don't forget to call your grandma. I thought that was just great.
This is exactly why you do not script a pro. Let them do their thing.
Jon Moxley's, go for it.
Maybe you want to throw in a couple bullet points. Hey, just touch on this. Let him do his thing.
Yeah, Jon Moxley's promos have been excellent. And I think just examples of AEW letting their people do their thing. We have the little bit of bubbly was completely unscripted, and that is like one of the biggest things. And Jon Moxley's promos have all been amazing. He had that promo, I forget after when, but it was right after a match. He went backstage, grabbed a camera guy, cut a promo in one take, and walked off, and that was it. And he has cut the most amazing promos, and I am a huge fan of Moxley, and ever since he left WWE, it has just been, he proves that there is life outside the WWE, and you can make it bigger without them.
The instant I saw him at the end of Double or Nothing, just standing in the ring, his posture and him looking at Jericho, you're like, oh, this is going to be big. This is going to be absolutely huge.
Yeah, and then watching him through the G1 it's like, this guy can go. He had some amazing matches. The match with Ishii that he had was insane. So yeah, Jon Moxley is definitely one of, he's not even like the dark horse in the race type of guy. He's like, well, everybody knew he was going to be big, but we weren't sure how big, and now that's all been taken care of on just how high up the card he can go.
Absolutely, and he can modify his character as he goes through different promotions just a little bit to make it more endearing. Like when he had those little pieces with Shota I was like, oh, this is hysterical. This guy's great.
Yeah, Shota Umino. Oh my god, those him taking him under his wing when they're doing tag matches and stuff, having him carry his title to the ring with him for him instead. Those are just great, and I wish that would be one of the things. I wish they had a working relationship with New Japan right away, because I would have loved to have him have Shota as a sidekick when AEW started, because that would just be gold.
Oh, absolutely.
Then we have the commentators doing the thing that I always praise them for every week, is they are giving us a heads up on some of the stuff that is happening next week. So we have MJF is going to be returning, whether it's going to be just a promo package or if he's actually going to wrestle, we don't know. Then it's Frankie Kazarian and Jon Moxley. I don't know if this is going to be a title match, but they are going to be facing one-on-one, so I'm not sure what's going on here.
I'm down to watch. Yeah, even a title match or not, it's going to be good.
Yeah, and then the odd couple, we have Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy versus La Sex Gods, Jericho and Sammy Guevara, in a street fight.
There is so much you can do with this. So much. Right.
I am curious where this goes. Are we going to get like a half elite deletion?
I think there's definitely going to be some people jumping in. I would not be surprised if you see Vanguard and or Roomba.
True. Yes. I am curious how this one goes. So, man, I'm still looking forward to Best Friends versus Death Triangle, though, in their street fight that got put off.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be wild.
I'm guessing they're going back to Daly's place next week.
I am imagining that this street fight easily leaves the ring, and they are fighting throughout Daly's place.
And then we had the main event of the evening. We had Lance Archer versus Dustin Rhodes. This is the TNT title semifinals here. They start off with some lockups, kind of doing a little bit of show of strength, not like the test of strength type of deal, but they're just kind of pushing each other around a little bit. Dustin low bridges Archer to send him to the outside, and then Dustin does the cannonball off the apron that he has adopted since AEW started. So a old dog can learn new tricks, as he has shown. Back in the ring, Dustin tries a power slam, but he cannot get Archer up. Archer gives Dustin a huge shoulder block that sends him out of the ring to the outside. Archer grabs a chair from underneath the ring, but Dustin kicks the chair away. Dustin then picks up the chair, and Archer kicks the chair right into Dustin's face. We get a little bit of a blade job here. He comes up bleeding, and Archer attacks He attacks the cut on his face over and over. They fight on the outside here. Dustin gets run into the ring post a bunch of times. One thing Jericho on commentary here is mentioning, man, I should probably call Uncle Jake Roberts and see if we can make a bit of an alliance between him and the Inner Circle with Lance Archer, because he probably does not want to get on Lance Archer's bad side. That actually gets mentioned again later on in this match, so Jericho is kind of feeding that seed. I don't know if it's actually going to go anywhere. And then Dustin hits Archer with the unnatural kick. Not sure how that is not a DQ, but he goes right back to attacking Dustin. Dustin hits a code red, properly named this week. They exchange some forearms. Dustin hits this massive clothesline, then a big power slam. And then Dustin gets out of a power slam and a choke slam, and Dustin hits a crossroads on Lance Archer. Lance Archer kicks out, I think, before even the count of one. And then Dustin goes up to the top rope. Archer catches him, gives him a choke slam. Archer does a rope walk into a springboard moonsault for a 2 count. I bet that would have gotten a pop and a half if it was in front of a live crowd. See,
absolutely.
Giant guy doing that. I don't think I've actually seen him do that before. I know he did it in the G1, but I think I'd missed it.
And here's the crazy part. Do you know how old he is?
Lance Archer? I believe he's 40.
Yeah, 43.
43, jeez.
43 to pull that off.
Wow. I mean, so we got a 51-year-old. Is he 51?
Yeah.
Dustin? 51-year-old and a 43-year-old in the ring, and they look like spring chickens, even though they're not. Dustin escapes a blackout attempt, but ends up eating a choke slam at this point. Dustin rolls Archer's pin into a crucifix attempt, but Archer kicks out here. Archer pulls the turnbuckle pad off and slams Dustin's head into it 3 times. Again, in front of the ref. Not sure how this is not a DQ. And then QT Marshall runs down, Dustin's tag team partner of the Natural Nightmares, what they're being called. And he's got a towel. Looks like he's going to throw in the towel, but Cody runs down and stops him from throwing in the towel. Dustin actually grabs the towel from both of them right as Lance Archer pulls Dustin into the middle of the ring. And Archer grabs the towel and throws it back out of the ring. He then slams Dustin's head to the mat a few times, throws on the claw, and gets the pin there. So Lance Archer wins this match, and he's heading on to the finals to face Cody for the TNT Championship.
So I did like the match with some small caveats. I was not a fan of... There should have been 3 disqualifications, technically. Well, 2 almost, with the chair shots, and then the kick in the turnbuckles, and then the face into the turnbuckles. Like, you guys are fighting for a championship belt. You know not to do something like that.
Yes, this has all been a complaint since the beginning of AEW. The rules seem a little laxed at times, and not sure why they are not being enforced. And they could give us the simple explanation of, well, the unnatural kick, he's not actually kicking the guy in the nuts, he's kicking the turnbuckle. The turnbuckle is going into the guy's nuts. So they could make that, okay, well, he's not really kicking him, he's kicking the ring. The ring just happens to be hitting the dude. And then same thing in the corner. He's like, well, it's part of the ring, so I mean, it's there. But I think removing the turnbuckle might be a offense of some kind. But I mean, we see that all the time, that removing a protective piece of the ring, I'd say, is not technically a DQ. So I guess if they just kind of explained it, I'm sure they could easily explain these things away, at least those two away. There's obviously been some very blatant DQs, but these I think kind of ride the edge, so you could easily explain them, but they were there. All in all, I like that they did a tournament to then get to a finals, so it's not just 2 people automatically getting a shot at a title here.
Agreed.
I think one thing I didn't like about this tournament is it did not feel grand enough. I think just having 8 people, you're basically starting at the quarterfinals. Would it have made more sense to do a 16-person tournament? But I'm not sure if they had the people to be even able to do it.
I think roster-wise they had the people, but I don't know if logistically they had enough people in the area. Because I know there's travel bans, people are not supposed to be driving. So I think really the question is, how many people do we have in Florida that can take part in this thing?
Right, or nearby, at least up to, North Carolina, Georgia, and whatnot.
Right.
But yeah, I think that might have been the problem, because I really would have liked this to be 16 people. They had the time, because we're still, 3+ weeks out to Double or Nothing, so then they could have gotten through the entire bracket by then. And even then, we might not have had so many squash matches on the past 4 episodes of Dynamite. All in all, I thought this show was a solid show. Actually, I did not check. Did you check the ratings before?
I did not, but I think
ratings.
NXT has only won once, I want to say, over a very long period of time.
Yeah. Well, they won twice, I think. The previous 2 weeks, previous to last week. And it looks like, again, Dynamite is holding steady at 693,000. So that is good. And NXT went to 637. So they're basically sitting in the lane that they were kind of at the end of 2019. So
it sounds like NXT actually caught up a little bit this week.
A little bit, yeah. So I think that's pretty good if they can stay solid, because that is basically within a few thousand of the past 3 weeks. So they have not been going down. They've stayed steady. So that is probably a good outlook for both AEW and NXT holding these types of numbers when we have Raw tanking like crazy and SmackDown tanking like crazy. So we will see. But I think both of the audiences for AEW and NXT are going to be a lot more loyal, and there are less casual viewers within that.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm all about it because that loyalty is gonna feed over to a live show when they come back. That first episode of Dynamite and NXT is gonna be absolute chaos.
Yeah, and hopefully we can get back to live shows at some point soon. I have tickets that got pushed out. I was supposed to be at the Boston show 2 weeks ago. That got pushed out and rescheduled to August 25th. Who knows if that will actually happen? But so far, I think AEW has been doing a good job making the best of a bad situation and still producing decent content. And I do not find myself getting bored during their show.
Not at all. I'm super happy with what they're doing.
Alrighty, so I think that is it from me. Do you have anything else you want to discuss from this episode?
Sure, I'm going to shoot you a question. Who do you think is going to win the TNT Championship?
Oh, yeah, that's probably a good one to talk about. I am completely lost on who is going to win. Like, I don't have a good answer. Like, I think the logical is Lance Archer because he is coming in, and do you want to beat him this early in his run? But there is just as valid an argument to have Cody because he is clearly the one of, if not the top guy in the promotion. So I don't think you can go wrong either way. And this is what I was saying last week about this. This is why I love AEW so much, because I don't have a clue on what's going to happen. I could speculate, but I'm not like 100% sure that X, Y, and Z is going to happen. It's not super predictable at all. And that is, one of the reasons I love AEW so much.
I think logically you want to give it to Lance Archer, just because if you're going to build him up to be a no-kidding murder hawk monster, you can't have him lose this early. But same, I have no idea who's going to win this.
And I guess another thing you could throw in there in favor of Lance Archer is right now the top title is held by a babyface. The tag titles are held by a babyface as well. So you want all of the men's division titles being held by babyfaces.
No, you got to throw a psychopath in there.
Right. So that probably puts a little bit more into the Lance Archer column. I'm going to put it at about 60% Archer, 40% Cody Rhodes.
I'd agree with the same, but I think I'm going to do like a 70-30.
Okay. All right. So thanks, Dave, for joining me. Why don't you plug all your stuff where people can find you?
Oh, appreciate it, Eric. And nice to meet you, by the way. Dave Colarusso. You can find me on all the podcast directories at Russo's Podcasts About Anything, or just jump on my Instagram, Mighty Mouse 0913.
Awesome. And thanks for listening, everybody. If I am still looking for a permanent co-host, Dave is kind of a fill-in and will guest once in a while, hopefully. And shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com. You can find this show if you're watching it on YouTube, on all your favorite podcast apps. If you cannot find it on your particular app, shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com. Also head to thatswrestling.com to pick up the RSS feed directly over there. If you are listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live on Thursday evening after AEW Dynamite, so you can come hang out in the chat. We did have a couple questions. One of them was, how many matches has Cody and Darby had? And that is 3 at this point. And so head over there. The link to the YouTube channel is in the show notes. So thanks for listening and watching, everybody, and I will see you next time on That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.